Welcome to A Sailor's Life live from the USS Constitution Museum. We are located in Boston, Massachusetts, as many of you know at this point, and our museum tells the story of the world's oldest commissioned warship afloat, the USS Constitution, which is also located across the Navy Yard from us in Boston, Massachusetts. And my name is Emily. I'm an educator at the museum.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I'm also an educator at the museum.
And our third host today is an active duty Navy sailor stationed on USS Constitution, and we'll have him introduce himself as well. Jay, are you there? There he is.
Oh, hey there. Sorry, I was just scrubbing the decks. Oh, my bad. Hi there. Yeah, like they were saying, my name is Seaman Ortiz. You call me Jay, though, and we'll be giving you guys a tour specifically about the guns today. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Really glad to have you here. Sorry to interrupt that very important chore on a Navy warship.
Right.
So Jay is going to be helping us today with gathering, training, and drilling a gun crew, which is you all here on board with us today. And we thought, hey, Saturday is 4th of July, happy Independence Day, a day traditionally associated with mighty displays of firepower and fireworks like these over Boston Harbor. And certainly, USS Constitution, she is inherently a ship about firepower. That's why she was built. She is a battleship. She was built to carry guns and have a crew to fire them. And so we're going to focus on that today, especially since normally on a 4th of July, the USS Constitution would be out in Boston Harbor, leaving her pier in Charlestown, traveling the length of the harbor to Castle Island, where the ship does a 21-gun salute with the fort there. Due to circumstances this year, the underway is not happening, but the ship is doing a virtual 4th of July celebration, including a 21-gun salute on Saturday. So what better day to do a topic on firepower? So Sarah, what are we gonna do today?
That's right, Emily. Today, in honor of Independence Day, it's all about Constitution's firepower. We can't talk about Constitution's firepower without talking about the people who helped operate these guns. And so that means that we are going to be recruiting a gun crew with our audience here today. Now, we're going to ask you some recruitment questions. These are the same questions that sailors would have been asked in 1812 when they were joining the Navy at that time. So we'll show a question on the screen. We're also going to launch a poll here in Zoom, and that will show up on your screen in a separate window. You can move that around if you want, and then select the answer that you feel is most appropriate for you. We'll share those results. We'll see what you guys think about our recruitment questions here. So I think we can go ahead and get started then with our first question. Okay, so very first question here. Do you have all of your teeth? All right, let me launch a poll so that you can all answer this question here. You should see that pop up on your screen. Now, probably not the first question you would expect to hear if you're going to be recruited onto a ship like Constitution, but I see we've got some answers coming in here. Looks like most have voted. I'll give you a few more seconds here. Go ahead and end this poll. Share our results back. All right, so the majority of our recruits here listening today have all their teeth. That's good to hear, because having all of your teeth, that's a sign of good health. Definitely in 1812, as an adult, if you had all of those teeth, it would have shown that you were healthy. We certainly need healthy crew members on our gun crew today. So a good first step. Let's have our second question then.
All right, so next question. Do you have all of your fingers and toes? Another maybe strange question, but if we think about it, Having your fingers and toes were very important when you were a sailor on a battleship, on a warship. So we have folks chiming in there. Wow, that was, I think, a really quick poll there that yes, we have a crew with all of their digits. So that's awesome. You're on a gun crew, you're gonna need to haul and hold on to the line to pull the gun backwards and forwards. You're gonna have to handle ammunition, firepower, powder bags, and you're gonna need your feet to keep your balance while the ship is firing and rocking back and forth on a rocky sea.
That's right. Balance definitely important for our crew members. Our next question here, are you willing to eat a biscuit as hard as a brick? So let me pull up our poll so that you can answer this. If you have been tuning into our programs the last couple of weeks, you will have heard all about the ship's biscuit in our episode on sailor food. And this is essentially the bread that sailors were served on board multiple times a day on Constitution. And it looks like, let's see what you guys think about this bread. Again, would have been super hard, but the majority of you are willing to give that a try. I'm happy to hear that because this was a diet full of calories, really high in calories. That's important for our crew members because those calories are going to give us the energy that we need to be able to do the hard work of operating Constitution's gunnery.
Awesome. All right, our crew's looking good so far. We have one last question. Are you healthy and free from scurvy, rickets, or gout? And maybe you're saying, hey, what the heck are scurvy, rickets, and gout? These are diseases and illnesses that were prevalent in the 1812 era, especially among sailors. They cause pimples, your teeth to fall out, pale skin. Often scurvy in particular was because you didn't have enough vitamin C. And so it looks like most of our folks here, or let's say all of the folks, good, you guys are free from these illnesses. So that's really important too. So as you see, a lot of these questions that sailors were asked had to do with their health. Were they going to be healthy and do the work that was required? So Sarah, what do you think? Jay, do you think we can recruit these folks into our gun crew today?
Sounds great. As long as you guys can hold on the line and fire away, I think we'll be good.
Okay, good.
Sounds like a good crew.
All right, you guys are all welcome into our gun crew today. We're gonna have you sign the Naval Oath here. This is an actual document sailors had to sign. This one's from 1842, saying you'll pledge allegiance to the United States of America, you'll follow the rules and regulations of the Navy, and you will support the Constitution of the United States. So we've all signed that in our minds, and we're gonna continue now with training our newly recruited gun crew.
That's right. So now that it's official, we do also want to make sure that we understand what a gun crew is on Constitution, right? So Emily has a photo of one of Constitution's gun crews so that we can see that out of the whole crew, there were 450 to 500 crew members in 1812. There were smaller groups of about 12 to 14 men. These were called gun crews, and they were responsible for operating, meaning they would load and aim and fire Constitution's guns. This is a photo of a modern gun crew, but it shows us kind of that process in action. And in 1812, these gun crews were responsible for 2 long guns on Constitution. So now that we know more about the gun crew, now that we've been recruited, we're ready to join the Constitution gun crew here. Let's check in with Jay on the ship because Jay, you're going to be our gun captain for today. So you can tell us everything we need to know about Constitution's long guns to help get us trained up and knowledgeable on how to operate these.
Sounds great. So first thing is first, ladies and gentlemen. Each one of these guns on the gun deck is a 24-pound long gun. And although they may look the same to a sailor like myself and my crew members, they are not. For example, this 24-pound long gun right here, her name is the Mighty Brimstone. Brimstone was the gun that I worked on when I fought on board the USS Constitution during the Battle of the Gary Air. So that gun has a very special connection to me. And then this one right here, Victory or Death. These names were taken from the USS Chesapeake. However, we all operate these guns on board the USS Constitution, not to sink the enemy, but to disable her. The idea is that you want to disable a ship, therefore you can take her, commandeer that ship, if you want to use nautical terms, take her back to her home port, and then make her a part of her own navy. And then this next one right here, Jump In Billy, a close second favorite of mine. If you look right here on this crest actually reads King George II. This was due to a miscalculation that happened in the 1925 restoration when they thought that our guns were actually made in Britain. However, today we know that is not true. And just a little bit more about the specifications about these guns. These guns can fire about 1,200 yards away. To put that in perspective, that's just a little bit less than a mile away. When you were shooting these guns, you weren't aiming for anything in specific. You were aiming to shoot at the ship, almost like a sniper rifle. And so on each one of these guns, you would have about 9 to 14 men. You would have a gun captain, which would be me acting as the gun captain right now. You would have powder monkeys, which was a nickname for young sailors who were around the ages of 8 to 11, who would bring up bags of powder through little scuttles in the deck. So we have one right here. The powder monkeys would pass the gunpowder through here, and then from there you would have a member of the gun team. They would pull out the tampion, the very front part of the gun. They would haul out these lines, and then you would stuff the gunpowder down to the very end of this bore right here. Then you would put in a wad, and then finally you would put in a shot, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the type of shot you used was very, very important, because based on what type of shot you were using, it dictated where you were firing at on the ship. So, right here, ladies and gentlemen, for all my new recruits, these are the pieces of armament that we'll be utilizing on our long guns and our carronades or smashers that are up above. Right here, ladies and gentlemen, we have a canister shot. Now, this canister shot is special because back in days of sail, we would actually load in small little musket balls into this canister. And if we ran into musket balls, we would load things like forks, different types of cutlery, shoes, anything we get our hands on, so that we could fire this at the enemy. And then right after that, we have our star shot. This star shot actually expends into about 4 little pieces, and it swings really, really, really fast. It's almost like flying nunchucks. These would be used to disable the sails. If you puncture a hole in the sails of a ship, then you could effectively take away a little bit of the functionality of that ship. Same thing with the bar shot. You would also utilize these shots to get tangled in the enemy's rigging. And then right here we have our double-headed shot. Now this is my favorite shot because of what it would be used for. This shot would be used for masts like the one behind us right here. It would be used to peck away at the enemy's mast again and again until that mast fell over, effectively, majorly disabling the ship. And then right here, another favorite of mine, this is the Grape Shot. In this little bag right here, you have about 10 of these little shots that weigh about 3 pounds, that would be expended from the long guns and the carronades. And what happened is the explosion inside the gun would actually diffuse this line that's wrapped around the grape shot, therefore spreading all these small little shots across the deck and injuring whoever's in their way. So to my new recruits, I ask you, are you willing to sail under the command of sailors like me and my crewmates firing away at the enemy? Yes? Okay, cool.
Certainly hope that they are. Yeah. Jay, I have a follow-up question for you. So
Yes,
we see there's a lot of long guns there, as you shared, on the gun deck, but how many guns does Constitution have on the ship there?
So today we have about 32 guns. However, back in 1812, we were rated a 45-gun frigate. However, we did not leave port with less than 55 guns on the gun deck and spar deck. Us Americans love our guns.
And there are some different kinds as well, right? There's we are looking at the 24-pound long guns, but there are some different types of guns on Constitution.
Yes, absolutely. So we have 3 different types of guns on board Constitution today. We have our 24-pound long guns, and then up on top on the spar deck, we have our carronades. Those carronades were utilized for more close inbound battle. And then the last type of gun we have is our bow chasers. There's only 2 of them on board the ship today, and they were located towards the forward or the bow of the ship. And we utilize these guns to shoot away at enemies that we are chasing.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So since this will apply to our gun crew here, can you tell us how heavy these guns are? Because if it's going to be our job to haul the lines for these guns, I got to know what we're getting ourselves into here.
Great question. Great question. So these guns, these 24-pound long guns, weigh about 6,500 pounds. That's a lot of cheeseburgers. That's a lot of people hauling on this line right here. Very, very heavy gun. However, the guns on top, the carronades, those weigh about 2,200 pounds. Still very, very heavy. Even on the carronades that you had up top, you would have about 6 to 9 men hauling on the lines. It's definitely a workout.
Man, it sounds like.
And Jay, we have a question. We have a question in the chat, just a clarification question about.
Great.
You said they have a range of 1,200 yards. Are you talking about an effective range or a max range?
We're talking more about an effective range.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Great. Okay, so anything else we want to know? I think, Sarah, you want to take us to the next important piece of this?
I think so. Yeah, we had some good questions. Sounds like our recruits are really paying attention. Everyone wants to know what's going on. So thanks for paying attention in our training, everybody. But one thing you mentioned, Jay, we want to focus on a little more closely, and that is, aside from us, the people power that's going to move this ship, what is it that, or move these guns, what is it that helps them fire? And you told us it was that gunpowder, that those powder boys, powder monkeys, would help get to the gun deck of the ship. But this powder, it wasn't stored right next to the guns. It wasn't even stored on the gun deck where you are now. It was stored in the powder magazines of the ship. So we're seeing on our screen now that there's an image of the ship. There's an arrow pointing to, on the left, to a white strip along the edge of Constitution, and that represents the gun deck. So that's where Jay is now, where he showed us all of those long guns. Now the other arrow on the right, that is pointing to the very bottom of the ship, because deep in the hull of Constitution are her powder magazines. So this powder is stored all the way down in the very, very bottom of Constitution. And Jay helped us out a little bit earlier yesterday by filming these space for us so that we can see what this area looks like on the ship. So we're going to watch those clips together now. And there's no audio for these clips, so if you don't hear anything, don't worry, that's okay. We're gonna explain what we're seeing after we watch them together.
All right, that's one of the powder rooms. Here's the other. Okay.
All right, so Jay, we just saw two different spaces in these videos. Can you share with us what each of those spaces were used for?
Absolutely, ma'am. So the first part, or the first video that we saw, was actually our aft magazine. That is where you're keeping all the cool toys. Back in 1812, that's where you'd keep your muskets, your grenades. That's where the gunner and armor would work. You also kept a lot of cutlasses, or as you may know them, swords. You kept all those down there. And the only people who are allowed to access that area were the officers, the armor, and the gunner. And the reason why you wanted to do that was because you wanted to separate all these weapons so that the crew couldn't stage a mutiny and take over the ship. I think that in itself was a really cool fact. And the reason why that room is lined in copper is because in addition to all those fun toys in there, you have a lot of gunpowder. Now, the thing about gunpowder, it produces fire. And the thing about fire is it doesn't mix too well with wood. So you can imagine the dilemma that us, the USS Constitution crew, is in. So what we did is we actually lined that room with copper so that if there was a fire, that copper would actually diffuse and contain that fire, therefore keeping us afloat. In that second video you saw, that was our filling room. You would transfer the gunpowder to the filling room, fill it up in little bags, and then the powder monkeys would then take it up to their respective guns.
All right. Thanks, Jay. So we've got that covered then. We've got the first step of firing a gun, loading, firing, aiming a gun taken care of. The powder, it comes from the bottom, it's carried up. We know, thanks to Jay, you have to choose the type of shot that you're gonna fire from the gun. And we know how far that shot can be fired. And so at this point, we're ready to do some drilling, I think. And we're gonna look at a video that was done by the USS Constitution crew just a couple days ago. You guys did this gun drill. And we're gonna show you this video here and give you a sense of what it was like to load, aim, fire one of these guns in a very short time frame. Usually it was around 90 seconds it took the crew to fire one round. So let's take a look at this. You're gonna see them do it twice. The first is gonna be with the commands that the gun captain would have issued to keep everyone on track. And the second time is just for speed. The crew is trying to do it as quickly as they can. Enjoy.
Silence. Cast loose your lines. Run in your gun. 2-6, heave. 2-6, heave. Very well. Move Champion. Run your gun. Load shot. Wide to shot. Ram home. Load shot. Load wide. Ram home. Run out the gun. 2-6, heave. 2-6, heave. As well. Quick and try. Point your gun. As well. Stand by. Fire. All right, guys. We're gonna reset one more time. That was command by command. And this time we're gonna run it with very minimum commands. All right, we will practice this over and over again until we become very efficient. And this master gun team here on USS Constitution, we have practiced and practiced, and we have become very efficient. So now what I want you to do, take your cell phones, take your timers, and we want to do this in less than 35 seconds. All right, that is our goal, 35 seconds. We believe we can do it. We've done it before. So we're gonna take this time in 35 seconds. So, gun team, are you guys ready? Here we go. All right, very minimum commands. Go. Silence. 260. That's well. As well. As well. Stand by. Fire! Boom!
All right. Woo. Good to see. So Jay, how did they do? What's your assessment of that gun drill?
Oh, that was a great gun drill. Just to add on to that video, our gun teams on board the USS Constitution were able to load and fire a gun in about 90 seconds, a minute and a half. It took the British about 3 minutes to do the same. So for every one gun they would fire, we could fire 2. And I just like to extend my admiration to that gun team right there, because that was a fantastic drill.
Can you just quickly explain to us what were the long poles they were using?
Oh, the long poles, great question. So we don't have any on this deck right now, but what you use those long poles is for, you would stick them about right here in this crevice right here, and those would be utilized to elevate the gun so you could aim.
Okay, gotcha.
And I see we have a question in our Q&A that I just want to address. Someone was asking, who are the reenactors in that video? So I want to be sure everyone knows those are some of your shipmates, right, Jay? Those are active duty Navy shipmates of yours, and you guys are trained to be able to drill as part of the heritage of this specific command.
Yes, ma'am. Those are my shipmates, and we're trained to take down any British ship flying the Union Jack.
Although you guys got to work on where you're aiming that gun. I noticed that the drill is right toward Constitution, so we got to work on that. But I also see someone gave you a little shout out in the chat. The time was 35.4 seconds. So thanks, Nathan.
35.4 seconds?
That's
okay,
pretty
we'll have to shave off those 4 seconds.
Yeah, you're right. We got to work on that too, huh?
It's been a while since we actually fought another ship, so.
That's true. That's why we drill, right?
Yep, absolutely, man.
And you guys can drill at home. I know our gun crew isn't on Constitution today, but our museum website at USS Constitution Museum, asailorsLifeForMe.org. Sarah will share that link out in the chat. We have a game called Ready, Aim, Fire. So you can do some drilling on your own. I'm going to show you some gameplay of how that works here. You get to pick your type of shot, round shot or bar shot, and you're going to shoot for some enemy barrels out there. Okay, I got a hit there. The ship is moving as I try to shoot, so the aiming's not super easy. You missed that. Oh, got another hit. Finally, that's one. So, okay, as you can see, I need a little more practice drilling on our guns, but you guys are welcome to play that game at home and see how well you can aim Constitution's guns.
That's right. So we've, I think, got a pretty good sense now of what a gun drill is like, some of these steps, that there were multiple steps involved with loading and aiming and firing these guns on Constitution. And as we've kind of mentioned here, drilling was really important, and it was a part of almost daily life for crews on Constitution in the War of 1812. Captain Hull, one of the captains from this time especially emphasized the importance of drilling with his crew. And it was so important because crew members had to be confident in their abilities, especially on this gun crew, to know exactly what they were called upon to do, to depend upon their fellow shipmates when they reached a moment of battle. And when we talk about battle on Constitution, this is something that could come up pretty quickly. You didn't always anticipate when you were going to engage with another ship. And so it's important to think about what this experience would have been like in a moment of battle for our gun crews. So when we do that, we can help picture what this looks like with this illustration that Emily's gonna show us on our screen here. So this is a depiction of what a moment of battle might have looked like on Constitution. You can see there's a lot going on here in this image. So I want everyone to just take a minute to look at this here. Think a bit about what, as a member of the gun crew, you might have been thinking and feeling or seeing, hearing, smelling during a moment like this on Constitution. Some of what I'm noticing in this image, I see there's smoke there. So certainly as these guns are firing, there's smoke all in the air on the gun deck. We have pretty crowded deck as well. So we saw how close together those guns were. And so there are a lot of gun crews around. Looks like there are some gun captains who are sharing some commands with their crews. We see in the center of the image one of those powder boys bringing powder up to the crew itself, but certainly a lot going on. This is a really intense moment of battle for gun crews. We're also noticing that there are some crew members, it looks like, who have been injured as a result of this battle. And injury was a reality of battle and life on a warship, certainly on Constitution at this time as well. Didn't matter which side of the battle you were on, injuries were common. Now on Constitution, we had a surgeon on board and surgeon's mates. They were responsible for the overall health of the crew, but in battle, they would spend time in this place we see here on the screen, the surgeon's cockpit, where they would tend to the injuries of crew members during battle and after battle as well. In Constitution's history, there were 260 crew members who died while serving on board the ship, but only 26 of those deaths, so about exactly 10%, were deaths from battle itself. So injuries, certainly common, but luckily in the case of Constitution's crew, they didn't have too many deaths as a result of these battles. But battle, definitely an intense moment, very real moment for gun crews on Constitution. And almost as intense as that was the aftermath of these battles, because the battles would end, but then it was left to these crews to kind of deal with the devastation that you were left with. We have some really vivid accounts of this from crew members. We see a quote from one of them on the screen now. So this is from Henry Gillum. He's a midshipman on Constitution. And in this quote, he's describing this scene that he sees on HMS Guerriere, which is a ship that he and his shipmates defeated in 1812. And so when he's on this defeated ship, Gillum says he can see pieces of skulls and brains, legs, arms, and blood in every direction. And the groans of the wounded were enough almost to make me curse the war. So I think this quote is really telling because it helps us remember that there are people on both sides of these guns, and it certainly is an impact on these men, whether you were a victor or whether you were defeated in battle. There were some very real consequences to Constitution's gunnery. Now, this practice of boarding a defeated ship, that was pretty common, something Constitution's crew had a lot of experience with in the War of 1812. They would board these defeated ships where they would take injured sailors and try to offer them treatment. They would take the rest of those surviving British sailors as prisoners of war. They would be transported back to the United States. And then they would also survey the ship Jay mentioned to us in our training that oftentimes you weren't trying to destroy these ships. You were just trying to defeat your enemy. So you could survey what was left of the ship there, and if there was any supplies that were worthwhile, you could take those with you as well. Sometimes, though, these ships were just too far gone and they weren't worth saving. That was the case with HMS Guerriere after Constitution battled Guerriere in 1812. You see in this image painting, the decision was made to destroy the ship. So she was intentionally sunk because, unfortunately, for that ship, there was just not enough worth saving there.
Yeah, so definitely, if the ship wasn't worth saving, you're going to burn it, you're going to scuttle it, you're going to sink it where it is. But sailors obviously would have preferred to capture that ship because there was money coming to them if that was the case, prize money. A captured enemy ship would be brought into port and auctioned off, and that money would go to the crew. And one midshipman wrote in 1814, that prize money is the golden fruit, the sweetest part of warfare. So that money was split up amongst the crew. You can see here a chart from 1800, Act for the Betterment of the Navy of the United States, which outlined what each crew member would get for prize money. And if you look into the individual award column and go down to where you see the seamen, that would have been like someone on the gun crew like yourself. So they would have gotten about $48 in prize money from a captured ship, and that was equivalent to a third of their year's pay. So not too shabby. We have one crew member on Constitution. His name was Jesse Williams. He fought in several battles in 1812. And when all was said and done, he ended up with the equivalent of 2.5 years worth of his salary in prize money. So pretty good deal there, and certainly an incentive for people joining the Navy. Of course, other things that happened when you won a battle besides prize money is you would get bling, you would get swag, you would get stuff, especially if you were the captain. These 2 urns were made for Captain Isaac Hull and given to him by the merchants of Philadelphia and New York. So he gets his face plastered on really fancy urns. He gets things like a medal, a Congressional Gold Medal there on the left. He gets fancy dress swords from the state of Connecticut there on the right. And you also get invited to parties. You're almost a celebrity. Here's a ticket to a naval dinner that Commander Bainbridge got for winning the battle, one of the battles in War of 1812. And even ordinary sailors would have been celebrated. They were given parades. There were songs written about them. So they were given the royal treatment, the hero treatment, if you stepped off a winning ship. So definitely a perk of winning the battle. So we have gone through today recruitment of our gun crew. What are some questions you had to answer? Training, what were these guns about? What are the facts and figures? Drilling, how did you actually go through a gun drill? And what's really cool is that on Saturday, you will be able to see this happen in person on USS Constitution. And so Jay, I believe you are standing by a special gun there on Constitution, the saluting gun. We had someone ask in the chat, what gun is used to fire at sunset? The ship does fire a gun every morning and every evening at sunset. And so Jay, what can we expect at Saturday's 21 gun salute?
Right, so everyone make sure to tune in for July 4th, USS Constitution's most special, most patriotic virtual tour yet. This is going to be one for the books, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be firing off Big Bertha, as I like to call her. We're going to fire off about 21 times. And if you're in the Boston area, you're going to hear it. This thing is loud, especially if it's going off 21 times in an hour. In addition to that, we'll also be doing pike demonstrations. We didn't really talk about pikes today, but pikes were another form of weapons that would be utilized on board the ship. So make sure to tune in for that. In addition to that, you'll be seeing a few faces that you haven't really seen in front of the camera for. You'll probably see a few of our chiefs. You might even see the captain maybe. So just make sure to tune in and don't miss it.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it too. Jay, a couple questions that have come up while we're by that saluting gun there. When you perform a live fire, do you use a full charge of powder or is it a lighter charge?
Are we talking about the saluting battery or those guns?
The saluting battery, the gun you fire nowadays.
Right. So the gun that we fire nowadays, it comes with a set amount of, it's not really gunpowder, it's more like wax. And you can't really dictate how much you're gonna fire because it's more contemporary. It's not the same as gunpowder.
Okay, good to know. And then how many of the guns on Constitution are real guns as opposed to replica guns?
So we have 2 guns that were made to be authentic firing saluting batteries in 1976 when the Queen came. You have Big Bertha right here on our starboard side, and then you have Mary Bell on our port side over here. Both these guns still do fire today.
Okay, good to know.
And
we
Jay,
are psyched for, oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to ask Jay, have you ever fired those guns before?
Yes,
What
I
is
have.
that like?
It is. It's very, very loud. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I feel very blessed to have the opportunity to do on board here at this ship. It's extremely loud, extremely smoky, and it puts in perspective what this ship is really about. Because this is just one gun. It goes off, you know, poof. But during the War of 1812, all these guns were going off. So it really gives you a glimpse of how life was back then, especially during battle.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's good perspective. I hadn't thought of it like that. Thanks for sharing that.
Good. Well, I think we are gonna wrap up. And so a happy 4th of July, a happy Independence Day to all of you out there. Please do tune in on Saturday. And when you see those fireworks on 4th of July, if you see them, you know, remember that Constitution, remember her firepower and the training that we did today. Jay, do you have any final words?
Stay patriotic, stay hungry, ladies and gentlemen.
Awesome. Thank you all there. You will get a survey after this program. We would love your feedback on these virtual programs. And we thank you for your questions and thank you for your participation today. Happy 4th of July.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.